We all seek happiness in this world. If I ask from you, would you like to be happy in your life? What will be your answer? You will say, of course, I want to be happy in my life. I want this peaceful state. I need to be in that. That is your answer. That is the answer of all living beings. Buddha says that all living beings likes to be happy and they seek the happiness. If you really think about our life, we are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. Let me tell that again. We are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. That means we are pursuing happiness, we are chasing and we are seeking for happiness, but yet we have not found it. So, what is the reason for this not finding happiness? Why we don't find happiness in our life? We are seeking it, we are finding for it, but we don't find it. What is the reason? Well, the Buddha teaches us that we are finding or we are seeking this happiness from a source that the happiness does not exist. Because we are seeking happiness from external world. We are seeking happiness from these materialistic things. Well, when you seek happiness from materialistic things or external world, you get pleasure, but that is not happiness. Pleasure is something temporary and it gives you this instant gratification. But in happiness, the happiness is long-lasting and it gives you this happiness or the contentment about yourself. So that is why Buddha teaches us that you're finding the happiness from a source where the happiness does not exist. So the more you find it, the more you become frustrated. So, will we ever be able to find happiness in our life? The Buddha answers this question. He says, yes, you can find happiness in your life. How to do that? If you look closely to the first and the second verses of Dhammapada, Buddha says, if one with an impure mind speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him like a cartwheel following the ox. If with an impure mind one speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him. And in the next verse, Buddha says, if with a pure mind one speaks or acts, the happiness will follow him like a shadow following a man. So that means the happiness and the sadness entirely depends on the purity and the impurity of our mind. When our mind is pure, we can find the happiness. So, how can we find or how can we gain this purity in our mind in order to find the happiness? Well, Buddha teaches us there are a lot of things that you can do to make your mind pure. So today, I'm going to share with you a few things that can give you the happiness in your life, that you can find the happiness in your life. First thing, accepting the reality of life will give you the happiness. You know, life is full of ups and downs. Sometimes you have good days, sometimes we have bad days, sometimes we have beautiful memories, sometimes we also have miserable memories. So life is not something that is going equally every day. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. When you realize this reality, you can face these situations successfully. Right? It is not always this bad experience makes us frustrated. It is our reaction towards this bad experience makes us frustrated. Whenever you get a bad experience or a bad day or a bad situation, tough situation, difficult situation, you have two choices. Either you can focus on the pain and feel miserable about that situation, or you can focus on the lesson that bad situation teaches us and learn from it and start growing your life. So, if you accept the reality of life, it is not temporary. Sometimes the people around us are not in our control. We cannot control their reactions. We cannot control their opinions. So when you realize these situations, you can face those situations successfully. That is one thing, accepting reality of the life. Number 2, Buddha said, be generous. Practicing generosity is a major practice in Buddhism. Well, in Buddhism, the generosity is known as dāna. In dāna, Buddha says that you have to give without any expectations. We have to give and we have to dedicate towards others without expecting anything in return. That is one thing that we have to practice. Most of the time, we like to hold on to things or gather the things towards us. That is what people think. When you gather more, when you collect more things, you will get rich and you will gain happiness. But that does not give you the happiness. It will give you the pleasure, but it is temporary. So what we have to do, Buddha says, be generous, give, help others, dedicate a part of your life on behalf of others. When you do that, when you become more generous, let's say like this, you gave some foods to a poor person, let's say like that. When you see that person is having those foods and overcoming his hunger and making his life much better, you can be happy by seeing that. When you become happy like that, you feel happy about yourself. Right? Nothing can give you that happiness. Like by eating a good food, by dressing a nice dress, you cannot gain that happiness. You don't feel happy about yourself. Right? Let's say after hundred of years later, maybe 10 decades later, when you think about that incident, I gave this food to this poor person. When you remind that, you feel happy. Even then you feel happy. That means happiness is long-lasting. So Buddha says, be generous, help people, do something nice every day for a person. That is one thing we can do. And number 3, forgiving. Forgiving is one of the most important things that we can do to create happiness in our life. We have to forgive ourselves. Also, we have to forgive others too. Because forgiving, when you forgive, it doesn't mean that you are saying okay to others' mistakes. It's okay. No, you're not saying like that. When you forgive, you make your heart free. So when you forgive, it's not for that person, it is for you. And also we have to forgive for ourselves. There are so many mistakes that we all have done in the past. If you hold on to past, and if you make this present moment miserable, that will not give you the happiness. So what do we have to do? Whatever the bad thing that we have done in the past, we have to have this ability to forgive ourselves and start all over again. We all have that ability, right? We all have that privilege to start our life again and make it a better one. Okay? So no one is perfect in this world. We all have done mistakes. One thing that we have to do is to forgive and start doing good things. So these are 5 things that we can do to create happiness in our life. And also, there is one happiness that is called the ultimate happiness in this world that the Buddha teaches us. That is called Nibbana or Nirvana. That is the enlightenment. When you realize about the reality of this life, and when you remove this desire or the craving that arises within your mind, then Buddha says that is the ultimate happiness. Simply, the Nibbana means ragakkayo, dosakkayo, mohakkayo, Nibbana. That means removing of the desire, anger, and the delusion of the mind is called the enlightenment. So that is the highest level of happiness that we all can reach. So when you practice these practices, right, when you engage yourself in wholesome state, that will create you the happiness in the life. So practice these things and make your life a happier one. Welcome to another episode. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you some thoughts of the Buddha about praise and blame. Now, when we think about our life, when people criticize us, when people blame us, what is our normal reaction? We feel angry about ourselves in the first place. And we tend to hate that person, of course. And also we feel sad in the same time. This is our normal reaction. And in the other hand, when people praise us, what is our reaction? We feel so much happy. We tend to think like, I'm the best. Well, Buddha teaches us these things are two extremes. Becoming too much happy when people praises you is one extreme. Becoming too much sad when people criticizes you is another extreme. So what do we have to do in such situations? The Buddha says, you have to maintain a moderate mind in such situations. So how to do that? Well, let me tell you a nice story about how Buddha dealt with such a situation. One day, while the Buddha was walking down the street with a group of monks, two people came behind the Buddha and they started talking each other. One was praising the Buddha. One was saying so much good qualities and good things about the Buddha, and the other person started blaming the Buddha. He started criticizing the Buddha. But in that case, in that instance, Buddha didn't react to such things. What he did was he kept walking. He went his journey. And in the other day, the monks gathered around and they were discussing about the incident that had happened in the last day. They were talking. It's really amazing that these two people came up to us and one was praising and in the same instance, the other one also criticizing us. We got the blame and the praise in the same time. Isn't that wonderful? Then, while these monks was talking about this, the Buddha came to that place and said, "What are you talking about?" Then the monks said, "Oh, Venerable Sir, we were talking about the incident that was happened yesterday." Then the Buddha said, "Dear monks, when someone criticizes you, maybe when someone criticizes about the Buddha or his teachings or his followers about you, you should not be angry with them. You should not be displeased with them." Why? Then the Buddha said, if you become angry, if your mind is covered with anger, what is happening within you is you lose the ability to decide whether that criticism or whether that blame is true or false. You cannot understand about that because your mind is covered with anger. Anger has overcome your mind. So with an angry mind, you cannot decide what is good or bad. So in that case, Buddha taught us, you should not be angry. And you should wisely reflect about what he or she is telling us. Whether that bad quality, or whether that criticism, whether that fault is within us or not. You have to think like that. Right? If that fault, or if that mistake is within you, then what do you have to do? You have to correct it. Make it correct. Develop your life. So that is one thing that you have to do. And if there is no such thing, or if that person is falsely accusing you, if there is no such mistake inside your mind, inside your life, and still that person is criticizing you, what do you have to do? Just let that go. Don't care about that, because it is not in your life. You should not be angry. That is one thing that you have to do. When you practice in a such way, what happens to you is you maintain a moderate mind. You're not going to an extreme. You're not becoming too much angry. You're not feeling too much sad about yourself. That is one thing that we can do. And in the other hand, when people praises us, we become too much happy. The Buddha said, no, you should not be too much happy about that. The Buddha said, when someone praises you, when someone says good things about you, what do you have to do? Don't be too much happy, because when you become too much happy, it also acts as a hindrance to your mind. When you become overjoyed, you lose your ability to realize or find what is good or what is bad, whether that good thing is within my mind or not. You have to wisely reflect about your life. Is that good thing, is that good quality is within my mind or within my life? Am I doing that good thing or not? If you're doing that good thing, you don't want to be too much happy, because it is already inside your life. You're doing that, right? So in that way, you're not becoming too much happy about the things, right? So these are the two extremes. When we bring our mind to the moderate way, not becoming too much happy, not becoming too much sad, then you can maintain a peaceful mind. Then you will not think about anyone or think about yourself that I am the best in the world. Because when people praises you, you think like, okay, I'm the best in here. Right? That is not being humble. That is something like a swollen-headed person do. Right? And the other hand, when people criticizes us, what you have to do, we should not be too much sad. Right? If it is wrong, if the fault is within us, we have to correct it. And if the fault is not within us, just ignore it. That is what you have to do. So these are the thoughts of the Buddha about praise and blame. So practice this moderate mind whenever you are facing the praise and the blame in your life. In today's video, let's talk about how to control our negative emotions and how to control our mind. Well, the nature of our mind is, it always likes to wander in negative emotions and negative thoughts. Negative thoughts like anger, desire or lust, or then jealousy, maybe resentment. These are the negative thoughts that our mind likes to wander in. So how can we control it? Well, our great teacher Supreme Buddha introduced us a gradual training where you can practice this controlling of negative emotions or negative thoughts in your mind. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce them to you. So first and foremost, before getting into these steps, there is one thing that you have to practice, and there is one thing that you have to master, and that is awareness. If you are not aware of what you're thinking, if you are not mindful about what you're thinking, then you cannot control it. So you have to totally understand and you have to totally be aware of what you're thinking. Okay? So whenever you find Whenever you become aware of what you are thinking, then you will have that power to control it. So here comes the first step. Buddha says, whenever you become aware of your mind is wandering in negative thoughts like anger or lustful thoughts or resentment or jealousy, the first thing is to shift your thought pattern to something wholesome. There are some wholesome thoughts in your mind which makes you peaceful. Maybe like thinking of something that you have done in the past, like maybe you helped someone. Whenever you think that thought, your mind becomes happy and peaceful. So what you're going to do is, whenever you become aware of your negative thoughts, we're going to shift our thought pattern to something that is wholesome, something that makes us peaceful. So that is the first thing that Buddha says. Shift your thoughts to wholesome thoughts. If that first step did not work out, then what you have to do, go for the next step. What is that? Buddha says, think about the disadvantages of thinking negative emotions, right? If you are constantly having angry thoughts, then you have to think, these thoughts are hurting myself and others. If I take actions according to these thoughts, it will hurt myself and the others. Remember, it may be a little thought of anger, but if it grow up, what will happen? It will be destructive. So what do you have to do? Think about the drawbacks or disadvantages of thinking these negative thoughts. Then, whenever you see these disadvantages, your mind will tend to stay away from these negative thoughts. Most of the time, we are not aware of these disadvantages. Okay? So what do you have to do? Think, if I keep on thinking these negative thoughts, it is not going to help me. It will disrupt my peacefulness. Right? That is the second step. Then as the third step, Buddha says, pay no mind, pay no attention. If the second step did not work out, go for the third step, to not to pay any attention to that thought. Right? See, whenever we give so much attention to something, maybe a thought, it grows again and again, it grows more, right? For an example, if you became angry with someone and if you keep thinking about him again and again and becoming angry, that anger will grow more and more. So what do you have to do? We have to let the thought be a thought without paying much attention, right? When you just stay away from giving attention, then it will fade away from your mind. It's something like this. Have you seen little babies, when they fall down, they start to cry, right? If the parent or the mother or father see that it is not a big deal of falling, if mother or father did not give any attention to that baby, what does he do? He just don't care about that. He will stop crying. Same thing goes with our mind. If we did not pay any attention to that thought, right? If we did not care about that thought and just let it go and let it pass away from our mind, then it will fade away. That is one way of doing that. If the third step did not work for you, then the Buddha says, go for the fourth step, to relax your thought process, right? Now remember, when you think negative thoughts, your mind becomes so much busy, so much rough and distracted. So, what you're going to do is, you're thinking, why am I thinking these distractive thoughts? These negative thoughts that are making me so much busy and making me distracted, right? So, what you're going to do is, you're relaxing your thought process to something very soft and subtle. Maybe like loving kindness, maybe like compassion, right? Maybe like gratefulness. When you think those thoughts, when you think more positive thoughts, your mind or your thought process becomes so much relaxed. And then if the fourth step did not work for you, then it comes the final step. This is something that we have to do with a great care. I do not recommend for everyone to do this. This should be done with a great experience and a good practice, right? And that is to crush your thought with awareness, right? You have to be totally aware of your thinking pattern and have a good determination to your mind that I am not going to think these negative thoughts, right? But this should not be done by everyone, right? Some may be not good at this, right? If you keep on becoming aware and if you keep on forcing this mind, it will grow more and more these negative thoughts. So if all those 4 steps did not work for you, then you have to go for the final step, right? So it is much better to practice these 4 thoughts before doing the final one, okay? So practice these things. When you practice, you will feel and you will understand that your negative emotions are fading away little by little. Remember, this is not going to happen overnight. It will take a long time to do this, but you have to keep on practicing. Keep on doing it. Make it a habit, and then you will become a master of it. So practice this practice and make your mind a place where free from negative thoughts. Welcome to yet another episode in Inner Guide Q&A program. Now in today's video, we are going to learn how to correct a mistake that has done by a person without hurting their feelings. First of all, we all have to know that we all are humans and we make mistakes. We all make mistakes, right? You, I, we all are the people who are making mistakes. So sometimes when we are dealing with people, when we live with people around us, we will see that the people around us are making mistakes. They do wrong things. Sometimes they may be the people who love you most. So in such times, we have to correct them. We have to show the correct path and we have to put them into the correct way. But when we do that, we do it in an unsuccessful way. Most of the time, we use anger, resentment, we use punishments to correct people. Remember, when you use anger, when you use the punishments, when you use the resentment to show the correct path to people, they will never correct their mistakes, right? Because when someone's mind is in anger, right, he cannot understand what is good and what is bad, what should be done and what should not be done. So, there is a way and there is a proper way to correct a mistake of a person. So, how to do that? Now, this way was taught by our great Arahant, Sariputta. Our great Arahant Sariputta says that you need to establish 5 things inside your mind before reproving someone or before correcting a mistake that has done by a person. So what are these 5 things? Number 1, remember, you need to speak at the proper time. That means you need to show the mistake of that person at the proper time. So what is the proper time to show a mistake to a person? Remember, never show a mistake to a person when that person is in anger. Because when your mind is in anger, you cannot know what is good and what is bad and what should not be done and what should be done. Therefore, you need to wait until that person cools down. Right? Don't show the mistakes to people when they are in anger. They will never correct their mistakes. Right? That is the first step. And the second step, never show mistakes to people in public. Right? When that person is surrounded by some other people, never talk about their mistakes. Why? Because in these days, people have a bigger personality, right? People show a big image to the society, right? You have a Facebook account, you have an Instagram account, you are on social media, and you show something to this society, and you think that you are a person, and you are like a kind of a person in this society. So when you show a mistake of that person in front of others, right? When you complain to that person in front of people, remember, you are not only damaging his mind, you're damaging his personality. Remember, damaging to one's personality is one of the most dangerous and most worst thing that a human can undergo. Therefore, never show the mistakes to people in front of others. If you want to show a mistake to a person, talk to them privately, right? Bring him under a shade or maybe a calm and quiet place and talk to them, right? They will like to hear that, right? So never show the mistakes to people in front of others. So that is the proper time. And the second thing, Arahant Sariputta said, you need to speak truthfully, right? That means you need to complain to the person that has done the mistake exactly, not to other people. Because sometimes, because of the misunderstandings, because of miscommunications, we complain to the people who have not done any mistake, right? We make false accusations. When someone is going through a false accusation, it is very hard for that person. Remember. Therefore, before complaining to someone, before showing a mistake to a person, find that exactly has this person done this mistake or not. Okay? So you need to be truthful. You need to find whether this person has done this mistake or not. Do not make false accusations. That is the second one. Number 3, Arahant Sariputta said, you need to speak gentle words. Never use harsh and rude words to explain the things to people, to explain the mistakes to people, right? When you use the hard and rude words like the words of anger, right, they will shut their ears, they will shut their eyes. They don't like to hear the rude words. In case no one likes to hear rude words, right? Therefore, if you need to explain a mistake that has done by someone else, then speak kind and gentle words, right? Speak heartwarming words. Then they will start to hear that, because we have a higher sensitivity to love and kindness. Therefore, use the words of love and kindness to explain the mistakes to people. Then they will correct their mistakes. And number 4, Arahant Sariputta said, you need to speak in a beneficial way. Remember that. That means when you are speaking and when you are explaining that mistake to that person, you need to give that feeling that this person, the reason why this person is explaining this mistake to me is because he loves me, right? He wishes the development of me. That is why he's showing this mistake to me. You need to give that feeling to that person. So how to give that? So there's a way to show a mistake to a person. There's a way to complain about a mistake to a person. It's like this. First of all, you need to talk to that person privately. And first of all, in the first step, what you have to do is you need to give a value to that person. Let's say, for an example, one of your co-workers made a mistake. Now you have to show that mistake. So first of all, you need to give a value to his profession. You need to give a value to what he's doing in a company, right? First of all, You need to say, you are doing a great job in this company. You have a great value. You give a great value to this company. Right? When you're praising that person, he will open their eyes and ears. And then in the second step, you need to show the mistake, but you have done this mistake. Right? You're doing this mistake. Because of doing this mistake, because you are doing this mistake, there is a huge disadvantage for the company as well as for you. You have to explain like that. Then after that, after explaining the mistake to them, as the third step, again, you need to give a value to his profession. Or you need to give a value to his life. Right? You are doing a great job, so do not do this mistake. Again, you need to correct this. If you explain the mistake in that way, remember, everyone who you need to show the mistakes will correct their mistakes. Right? And in the final thing, right? The final thing, Arahant Sariputta said, you need to speak with a heart of loving kindness, right? Not while harboring the hatred thoughts. Because so many people show the mistakes to other people, right? To maybe to your children, maybe to your husband or wife or colleagues or co-workers, whoever it is. You get the anger to your mind and then you start to speak. Right? Never do that. You need to be kind to the people. You need to have the compassion inside you. With that, you can do a great job. Right? You can heal others' hearts. And also, you can correct the mistakes of people successfully. So, you need to use your word wisely and properly. Because your words can change the lives of people. Words are so powerful, it can make people, and also, in the same way, it can break people. Therefore, when you show the mistakes to people, you need to speak kindly, gently, and in the proper time with a mind of love and kindness. So try this out and see the difference of your life. Namo Buddhaya.